Hello, this is Jason coming to you from the beautiful, beautiful Kuta Beach in Bali. Here at sunset, sun will be down in the next 15 minutes. So today I'd like to talk to you about transhumanism and at what point does a human stop being a human when you start replacing human parts with synthetic parts. So I think that's a very interesting topic to talk about, and I'm also going to take you to a couple places where I've ate recently. A good place where I had some pizza, and I'll show you another place too. I forget what I ate there, but I'll show you. And so there's no shortage of good, tasty food here. Oh, I remember I had some fish. So my friend Ron said I needed to stop eating like chicken sandwiches and pizza and start eating some fresh seafood. So I had to take his advice, and I had some fish. I'm not the biggest seafood enthusiast, connoisseur, lover. Not the best seafood lover. Like every once in a while I'll eat some fish or some shrimp, but I'm not crazy about it like a lot of people are. So let me spin you around, put you on my chest, and we'll talk about some transhumanism. All right, so what is transhumanism? It's basically man merging with machine, and a way to attempt to live forever, which who wouldn't want to live forever? I mean, as long as you have your mind and your health, which if you replace human parts with synthetic parts, health would be a non-issue. But then at what point are you really no longer human? So if you get an artificial heart, are you still human? I'd say most people would say yes. And now what if you go and get replace different organs? Now you have an artificial stomach. Now you have an artificial kidney. Now you have an artificial liver. And you keep replacing part after part until, I would imagine, the last thing that we'd ever be able to synthesize is the human brain. But you just really need to have a mechanism to keep the brain alive. We might not even need all of the organs as we have them today if we could just make a machine that would deliver oxygenated blood. So as long as the blood, you get oxygen blood to the brain through whatever means necessary, you should be able to keep the brain alive, which is what keeps your mind alive. So I think most people would probably say just a brain in a jar is not a human. But what if that brain is alive and has a mind and can speak through some method, maybe through a computer? I mean, is that still human when it's really just a brain? It's something to think about. So our first eating spot is the Locha Pizzeria. And this was the best pizza that I've had so far in Bali. So it was pretty good, and I would highly recommend it. And it's a very nice place. You know, it's kind of like upscale fountain. It's, you know, very presentable. And here's the pizza I got. It was the spicy beef pizza, I think is what it was called. And got some jalapenos on there for a little kick. And I got some egg rolls. They were okay. I probably wouldn't get the egg rolls again, but the pizza I definitely would get again. So this was the medium-sized pizza, and it cost around $6. So pretty good deal for some pizza. And it's not too far from where I'm at. I think it's like a mile. But, you know, very nice atmosphere. It wasn't too busy. I kind of had the place to myself. Filming myself. It is kind of funny when I'm setting up cameras in different spots in a restaurant and they're kind of looking at me like, what is this dude doing? But I've learned not to care, because people really don't care. No one's ever said anything or even mentioned it, so I don't mind. But yeah, this place is really cool. I'd check it out, the Locha Pizzeria. All right, let's get back to it. And then the next step would be just removing all human tissue altogether, and finding some way to take all your memories, all that you know, what makes you you, and synthesize it maybe into like a large language model AI, and then just put that into a completely machine robot. It's where now, you know, to anyone speaking to this robot, they appear to be like you. You can even make it sound like you with your own voice, and it has all of your memories, has all of your life experiences. I don't know how that would be done, but I'm just imagining in the future that this would be possible. What would that be? That's not a human. It's not even a cyborg. There's no human parts left. It's just a human's mind implanted into a synthetic being. And as these AI, you know, our AI technology gets more and more advanced, even AIs that, you know, were never humans, that are just absorbing all this human content, and it becomes a completely synthetic human that is just a amalgamation of all of humanity's knowledge. I definitely think that that's going to be possible. It's already moving in that direction. That there'll be a, you know, superintelligence that is smarter than all the humans in the world combined. That's going to be interesting. I think that will come before, you know, the completely, oh man, deep water falling off right here. That'll come before we're able to like synthesize a brain. Being able to create a super intelligent synthetic mind will be first. And that is actually scarier in many ways. I got a bunch of broken shells in my shoes now. Not the most comfortable. Check out the sunset for a minute. When you're a synthetic being and your mind is implanted into a robot, I wonder if you'll still appreciate the sunsets. I hope so. is some things that I think about. And I was recently watching the, which made me think about it more. But I've read books about, Ray Kurzweil, the Singularity is near. Talks about when like artificial intelligence will, surpass human intelligence and eventually surpass all of the humans in the world, intelligence combined in one entity. And he also brought up that idea of like, when does a human stop being a human as you replace body parts? At one point, certainly at the point where there's just a brain in a jar, you don't say that that's a human. That's just like a body part. But how many body parts can be replaced and you still call them a human? I really don't know the answer to that. I'd be interested to know what you think. At what point would they no longer be a human? And these are things that we as a species is going to have to, decide on in the future. You can imagine, like, if there's a murder committed by a transplanted brain in a cybernetic body, like, how's the justice system work on that when it's mostly a machine? And then if that machine could live forever, then what's the proper punishment for something like that? A life sentence in most places is considered like 20 years. After 20 years, you can get parole and get off. In most cases, like, sometimes they sentence people to life without possibility of parole. But when you're living forever, now what could possibly be a punishment? Like 500 years? I don't know. There's going to be a lot of weird stuff that people have to figure out like that in the future. How long do we incarcerate something that can live forever?
So the next place I went to eat is C's Cafe and Eatery. And here I had some fresh fish just pulled out of the ocean. They grill it up on this open flame here. And I had a little bit of a French fries, I guess, as a appetizer. It came out first. I don't show myself eating it, but there were some good, crispy, crunchy fries. And then here comes the main dish, this was a, what kind of fish was this? A snapper. This was a snapper fish, and it was prepared to perfection. They cooked the whole fish, but it just like fell off the bone. Like, I really didn't have to like pick bones out of it or anything. They just, it was cooked so well that the fish meat just fell right off the bone. So it was very delicious. And then for dessert, I had a banana split, and it was delicious as well. So I'm eating well here in Bali. All right, back to it.
So now let's forget about synthetic parts, and let's talk about like biohacking parts, because that's another frontier where they're using like 3D printers and stem cells and printing out organs. So theoretically, they'll be able to print out a new heart. They'll be able to use your own cells, because that's one of the big things about like organ transplants coming from a different person, is no one's exactly genetically identical to another person. So you usually have to take some kind of medicine that suppresses your immune system to get your body from rejecting that organ. Look at that beautiful sunset. Very beautiful. But if you can take stem cells from a person, and I heard they could take like cells and revert them to stem cells, and then those stem cells can become any other type of cells. They're doing some really crazy stuff in bioengineering. So let's just say they got that all figured out at some point in the future, and they're able to print you a new heart, new lungs, new liver, new kidneys, new pancreas, any organ that you need something new. They could just, even when you're a baby, they could take cells or whatever, maybe take cells from the placenta or something and store them, and they'll be able to make any cells you need in the future using that material. And then, if whenever your organs start going bad, you can just print out a new one. That's definitely gonna extend life. And I've heard people say that people that have been born today already may live long enough to live forever. Maybe not me, but maybe a newborn that was just born this year. Maybe they will see the day when they can live forever from these kind of advancements. Either being able to replace organs or creating synthetic organs. And they're even, maybe even at the genetic level, where they could do some gene therapy and insert genes that, replenish the mitochondria and all the cells the parts of the cell that break down over time. They talk about like alleles on chromosomes start getting shorter, and that's one of the things that starts causing like organs to not function properly. It's kind of like your genetic code is breaking down. But if they're able to repair that thing at the DNA level so that you don't age in the same way that we do now. You start taking treatments when you're in your 20s, and 80 years later still look like you're in your 20s. And that would be amazing. It's like that sunset. I gotta get these shells out of my shoes. That's much better. So what do you think about that? And would you want to do it? Would you take, if money was no object, would you want to either be synthetic, be in a robot body with your brain in a robot body that would live forever? Or would you rather the gene therapy that fixes your DNA to where you never age? Or would you want the organ transplants where they're printing out, 3D printing organs on demand and printing you out a new organ whenever you need one? I mean, you could even do it preemptively. Be like, we recommend at age 50 that you print out a new heart that should be good for another 50 years. Every 50 years, here's our recommended human maintenance We recommend a new heart, a new liver, new kidneys every 50 years to stay at peak performance at a minimum. Some people may do it every 20 years. There's the last bit of sun going behind the clouds. And I walk up to that statue right there, and that is actually Seminyak. So this walk, I've gone from Kuta through Legion, and then up here is Seminyak. So these are all like different cities, very close together. Then you keep going up, and it's Canggu up farther. I don't think you could really walk to Canggu from here on the beach. I looked at the map, and there's like a little separation. But I will be going to stay there next week. So that's really all I had to say. Hope you enjoyed this topic. I find it very interesting. And I would take advantage of it if money wasn't an issue. I'm sure when it is first available, it'll be so expensive that only the ultra rich will be able to live longer doing these things. And it may never get to a level of affordability for the common person, which would be unfortunate. But if it was available, I'm sure that I would be willing to do it. You know, if I'm facing death, I need an organ transplant, and they have the ability to just take some of my cells and print out a new one, heck yeah, I'll do it. Ooh, the transplanting your brain into a synthetic body would be a little more scary, I think, than just the replacing individual organs. Pretty crazy. But that's all I wanted to talk about. So, thanks for coming on a walk with me for another beautiful sunset. Nice little orange glow. Nice pink clouds. Very beautiful. But that's all I got for now. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, drop a like on the video. It helps out. Maybe share it to some friends on social media. And if you're not subscribed, be sure to subscribe to see my future videos. So that's all I got for now. Talk to you later. Take it easy.